Welcome to Tapping to Realize What Matters. I'm Jeanne Demers, and I'm here to share with you all about tapping. So you may have heard of EFT, and that stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. That's the original name of tapping. Tapping's kind of like its nickname. Or you may hear EFT tapping. It's referred to that way. And what it is that it's a modality, it's a practice that combines modern day psychology with Chinese medicine, acupressure. And with tapping, what you're doing is you're using your fingertips to lightly tap on what are meridian endpoints. And these points correspond to organs and glands that are responsible for secreting the chemicals that cause the physical sensations that we call emotions. So we're going to get into what the points are in Module 2. But right now we want to go into wait, how does this actually work? So as I say, you're applying pressure to these acupressure points, acupoints, and they correspond to meridian endpoints. But what are meridians? Meridians are these pathways through which life energy, known as qi, flows throughout the body. And by tapping on these points, you're doing things like encouraging the movement of energy throughout the body, bringing down the stress response noticeably, and you're guiding your nervous system back into balance, homeostasis. One of the primary ways that I think of tapping is as a pattern interrupter, because it can interrupt and rewire things, such as patterns, long-term patterns, short-term patterns. Think smoking, nail biting, overeating. Now, the fact that it is so simple to use and that it has such a wide range of applications, plus the fact that anybody can do it anywhere, anytime, it's what's caused it to really take hold. And the tapping community has grown exponentially. It's just exploded in the 10 or so years since I came to it, and it was going on before then as well. In fact, let's go to the origins of it. So where does it begin? When does it begin? It was the 1980s, and it was developed by a man named Gary Craig. So Gary Craig developed it by working with the work of Roger Callahan, Dr. Roger Callahan, a cognitive psychologist who was responsible for creating TFT, thought field therapy. And there's a story about Roger Callahan working with his patient Mary that really illustrates the significant step that TFT was in the evolution of the development of EFT. So I'm going to tell you the Mary story. Mary, woman in her 40s, and she's got an extreme phobia of water. Like since birth, her family says even when she was an infant, she was terrified of water. Bathtub, rain, swimming pool, didn't matter what form the water, she was terrified. So she's working with Dr. Callahan for a year and a half and little to no progress. But while working with him, she repeatedly mentions that every time she thinks about water, she gets this awful feeling in the pit of her stomach. So Dr. Callahan knew that the location of the stomach meridian endpoint was underneath the eye. So he says, let's try this. You think about water and that feeling, that pit in your stomach feeling, tune into that while I tap on this point underneath your eye. So they do that together, and To his astonishment, to her astonishment, she exclaims, "It's gone. That horrible feeling that I get in the pit of my stomach when I think about water, it's just gone." And the story goes that she leapt up out of her chair and she ran toward his swimming pool, and she is now free of all traces of fear of water, and remains so in the time since, decades later. Just all gone, all better. So that's the Mary story, and that's about TFT, thought field therapy. What Gary Craig did was he was aware of this work, and he worked to refine and simplify the techniques and reduce the number of points, systematize the process, incorporate some other disciplines into it. And ultimately, he developed a very simple but very profound set of techniques that he called EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques. And he took it mainstream by putting it out there for free on his website. So you Google Gary Craig and you'll find his website, and it's a treasure trove of case studies by many different people around like how tapping was applied to great success and the way that they did it. So that's how it all started, and it's gone on to be much further tested and refined. The people who were the pioneers of it, after or the first iterators of it, were like, it's not going to fly if it doesn't have science behind it. Like, it's just too weird looking a modality for people to take seriously. So they were like, we're getting science behind it. And they took the time that it took to get hard data. And now there are over 100 studies demonstrating just how effective it is. I like to quote the one that appeared in the American Journal of Psychology, which is the oldest peer-reviewed psychology journal in the United States. And there was a study in it that found tapping lowered cortisol, that's the stress hormone, 10% more than the other interventions that were being tested alongside it. And in the scientific community, 10% is considered statistically significant. Okay, so it's great. Tapping is evidence-based. It's based in science. It's clinically proven to do things like, and this is a great one, because the Department of Veteran Affairs uses it in this way. It's able to reduce the intensity of traumatic memories. Okay, so much so that they use it with military personnel who suffer with PTSD. And I'm going to include a link in this module so that you can see a video of veterans talking about their experience before and after EFT. What else is it able to do? It can conquer phobias. Think Mary's story. Anxiety, stress, compulsions, addictions, cravings, physical pain, mental blockages. In short, it's really like anything that is influenced by our minds. Any problem that is influenced by our minds, it is able to address. And really, it's like, what problem is not influenced by our minds? We don't just have a mind-body connection. That's the operating system we're in. They are together. There's no connection. They are one and the same, mind and body. Not mind up here and body down here. Our mind is all throughout our body. Neuroplasticity. So this is the science. And I learned this in studying NLP, and it's really worth sharing because it's like, oh, that's how it works. So tapping works with your brain's ability to rearrange neural connections. Okay, That's what neuroplasticity is. It's malleable. Okay, so what we do in tapping is we call up at least some of the thoughts, feelings, memories, images that go along with the issue that you want to transform. You get them going on in your system. Why? Because when you activate the neural networks that are involved in the problematic issue, those neural networks are firing. They are plastic when they're firing. They are malleable when they're firing. It's like they're hot. And they are really similar. Where you've got them going on very much the same way the first time that the problem was encoded, that experience was encoded. So when you have that going on in your system, that's the time to apply tapping to it, because it's possible to reform, rewire, redirect those neural networks. That's how it works scientifically. Isn't it exciting? So that's kind of it. That's what I wanted to share. And now you know all about tapping. So hop into the next video where you'll learn the actual tapping points.